of the cattle and call this land their home before their forced removal. We respect their hospitality and honor their history. Amen. We further recognize that 101 years ago, this very neighborhood was destroyed by the violence of bigotry and racial hatred. As we recognize the atrocities of the past, we cannot forget that the fight for equality is far from over. The Woody Guthrie Center is dedicated to spreading Woody's message of diversity, equality, and justice. We educate visitors, teachers, students, scholars about Woody's life, legacy, relevance, and his important role in American history. It is our honor to share this positive message with a new generation who can create their own ripples of change. We welcome all of you folks here tonight. I'd like to welcome Mr. Lamont Jack Pearley here. It looks like we're gonna get some knowledge dropped on us tonight. I'm gonna let him go ahead and open up things. He can introduce his panel. Once again, we're so glad to have each and every one of you here. I want to let you know that the AFS, there are some discounts that we have for you visiting the Woody Guthrie Center and the Bob Dylan Center this weekend. Please make sure you take advantage of them. We have the Schatzberg exhibit at the Dylan Center, and we also have it will be the 4th day of Woody's Guthrie's People Are the Song, our newest Woody Guthrie exhibit, just opened less than 48 hours ago. So please come and see it. I want to see all your faces. Once again, I'm Sam, your front house manager here at the Woody Guthrie Center. Have an awesome night, folks.
What's happening? What's happening? What's happening, blues people? And the friends of blues people. Right? I got to keep it 100. All right, so before we get into it and before I introduce my great panel, I just want to address what Brother Sam said with a little bit of blues gems, considering Indian territory of Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama, and all these places that lead up to here. All of the Delta and this region cultivated this music we call the blues, right? And you have Charlie Patton, who did a song called Down the Dirt Road Blues. Is anyone familiar with this song? I see a few hands, I know you are. He's talking about going to Indian territory, going to a reservation, leaving the South to go to a reservation. He was indigenous, not native. Indigenous, it's a difference. But that's not what we talk about today, so I'm not gonna talk about that. There's a song that's credited to Son House about a black Indian woman, but the only version of that song I could find was sang by Memphis Minnie, right? Has anybody heard that song? Well, even if you haven't heard that song, you need to look up Memphis Minnie. She probably has the longest blues catalog next to Petey Wheatstraw. And she is not the average when it comes to what they considered early blues women. Early blues women was considered classic blues, vocalists, performers, right? Like this wonderful woman sitting next to me, Miss Wonda Macon. Give it up to her. You like how I just snuck that in there, right? We're just gonna keep it going. See that brother right there? Look like a deacon in my church. And that's all right, I love that. Yes. That's Mr. Walter Taylor. Give it up for him. Sorry, the third. And you know why? Because, you know, I'm a senior, so I dig that. That little lady, little feisty one right there, that's Miss Selby Minner. See that gentleman on the corner right there? Y'all gotta give this man his just due. That is Dr. Harold Aldridge.
Yes.
This is my bodyguard if somebody want to act funny. So I want to read this before we get going, and this is actually the summary of this panel. We're going to be jumping around a bit in conversation before we get to the music, but I just want to give you guys at least a foundation of where we're going with this conversation. Mississippi and Chicago are popular locations when discussing the blues. However, there are many regions that cultivated the musical expression. Black Oklahoma has a unique history within itself, and the blues birth there is from a style known as Texas hotbox. The panel for this year's conference will discuss the experiences of the blues people of Oklahoma. Now we're gonna leave it right there because I would like to ask you all a question, and then I would like to ask, we're gonna get to them. Do you all know who the blues people are? No?
You right, Joe?
No.
Black people?
Who said that? That's right. He said that's right. But the Black American experience, right? Culture mixed with some with other melanated folk, but it's a Black American experience, okay? And that's the blues people. I adopted that from Amiri Baraka, even though he tied it to Africa, but majority of that was, if not all of it, was birthed right here. Now, with that being said, let's jump into the story. Not separating nobody. Let's jump into the story of Oklahoma blues. This is an open-ended question. Whoever wants to answer this first, what would you say is Oklahoma blues?
You mean like style?
Yes, ma'am.
I guess you said the Delta. I know Miss Blues always called it Delta. I mean Texas or whatever that was. I'm sorry, I'm thinking in my head. Anybody else have anything?
So what was that lady's name you just mentioned?
Miss Blues.
So
I grew up with her, and she used to tell me it was called Texas something blues. And she had different styles. It was not just one particular style
okay.
of it.
So now who is Miss Blues, and would you say that she is what Oklahoma blues represents?
She's one of what I would say one of our queens of the blues for Oklahoma City. She's gone now, but she played for many, many years here. She actually was from Texas.
Plot thickens. Well, because we're talking migration.
Yeah. Well, I agree with but I disagree because Oklahoma has so many.
Different versions, like I said.
I mean, it has its own style. I mean, you grab pieces of this and pieces of that, and I think it depends on the individual. You know, I mean, what do you relate to? You know, what makes you stand out or what makes you comfortable? And then again, what the audience is attracted to. Because without the internet, just think about how many people were able to have their own style in this region over here. Until you saw them in person, you thought they were the most amazing thing in the world. But then on this other corner over here, there was somebody else turning flips doing the same thing. So, I mean, it's wide open. I think Oklahomans, just like in Texas and everywhere else, has its own styles, but we all borrow from so many others.
So I want to start with you, Dr. Aldridge, with this question. What about the Black history in Oklahoma makes the sound in its blues unique? Who's wildin'? Go ahead, sir.
Oklahoma was a crossroads, a center spot between Texas, the deep south, what was going on in Kansas, and what finally happened in California on the East Coast. And so there was a composite of different sounds coming through here. And anytime the blues left the Delta, wherever it migrated to, there was music already going on there. And so the blues was changed. It's still evolving. And the only thing that you can say is there's a foundation of the blues and then the evolution of what is happening today. And right here in Oklahoma, you had people who came in with the 5 so-called civilized tribes, the Africans, the African Americans. And then after they got here, after the Civil War, then you had the influx of what was called the state Negroes, and those were the black folks that was born outside of the Indian nation and outside of Indian territory. And they brought with them the type of music that they had with them. And then right here in Oklahoma, it was a composite, and it evolved into the unique sound of the Oklahoma blues, which sounds like a little of everything, like Texas and Louisiana, it depends on which parts of the country you're from. And then when it moved further north, it changed again. So that's kind of like what I see as what happened to make the Oklahoma music different than others. But if you try to pick it out with the blues artist, you would have difficulty finding out which ones sound more like Oklahoma, because it is a composite of a number of different styles.
So, good. So, with that being said, how many black communities were in Oklahoma?
They said at one time that it was close to 50 or 60 black communities, but each black community, and I'm from one, Taft, Oklahoma, each black community had satellite black communities around them. So that would increase it to any number, in the hundreds maybe. And so when the segregation, when the blacks showed up in Oklahoma, they thought it was a free state where they would have some liberty and get away from what was happening in the South to them with the lynchings and the murder. And then when they got here, and my daddy's grandparents came here, they were state Negroes in the early 1900s. When they got here, Jim Crow was already here. And so they knew then they had to establish separate black towns for protection and for commerce and all of that. So that's what started the black towns. Now, I'm from Taft, Oklahoma, and I grew up in the 50s and early 60s. And I got to see, those changes that were happening in the 50s and 60s, and the juke joints and the clubs and all of that. And so that was my foundation into the music. You'd walk past a juke joint, and there would be a guy sitting out front on a stool with his guitar case turned over, playing gospel music every now and then play some blues. And then, I thought that he threw 50 cents or a quarter in his guitar case to get you to think that, well, you need
Other people.
feed the kitty.
Poor guy.
So, you know what, let's stay there for a minute.
Yes, sir.
And I'm only gonna ask it once, and I would like it to go around the panel. Your introduction to the blues. Please share that with us. And I mean, you kind of did, but elaborate a little bit more, then go to Ms. Selby, Mr. Walter, and Ms. Macon.
Growing up in the town that I did, my daddy was from Foley, Oklahoma, so he had that same type of experience. And growing up in a black town, and they had their own stores and everything else, we didn't know how to really kowtow to anybody. And so the music just came out of the top. And it's whatever you felt or whatever you thought, that's what you said and that's what you played. Now, in my experience coming up, like I was mentioning, there was music all around. And you'd walk down a half a block and there'd be some other guy singing something else. And they usually would do it with a guitar or a harmonica. And then there would be one or two who did the guitar and harmonica. And then they would be talking about what the blues was. And then they would be, and I look back at it now, and it was like, how did they know to talk a little history? Because see, we always thought blues was about some woman and run off with a man, or some man and run off with another woman, and and that. But every now and then there would be some social commentary blues, which would make you want to go, wow, is that what's happening to us? So that's kind of like my early experiences. And then I had a first cousin whose parents died, and so she moved in with us. And she came in with 78 vinyl records with all the old style blues. And I hadn't heard a lot of that stuff because most of what I heard was just in the community. I didn't know about the national scene because there were no radios for us to listen to it. And then it was from those 78s that I got captured by the music scene. That's my little story.
Now, before we get to Ms. Sobey, I have to ask the audience a question. Have any of you ever held a 78? Okay, cool. Because you need to understand what we're dealing with here so you can get the full Monty of this, because I have a few of those. Go ahead, Ms. Sobey.
Well, I am a transplant. I grew up in Rhode Island, and then I moved to the Bay Area after I started singing. And I ran into my husband there, and he was playing, and he needed a bass player, and I had a bass. And he'd switched to guitar from the bass, and he said, well, I played bass with the best in the business. I played with Chuck Berry and Bo Diddley and Ovie Wright and Freddie King. I said, he needed a bass player. I had my bass. He said, I'll show you how to play that thing right. I said, great. Because I've been playing folk blues, and in Boston I got up to the Folklore Society with a banjo player. And then I knew I had to travel to do the music. And so I started traveling, and I've been in almost every state. But why I'm here, when he said, well, we can live on the road and you can be my bass player, and we did that for a long time. But not too long after we got together, he said, I have a house and land that's paid for in Oklahoma, and I'm a musician, right? I said, I'd like to see that. One motel room after another apartment. And so then I learned about the towns. Renniesville, he was born right in Renniesville, an original all-black town. There was a 5-acre farm there. And we would come back and visit the relatives, and I sang in the church after we got married, and then we'd go back, and we lived on the road about 12 years. But I love the music from this state. If we had in Austin or Nashville, you would all know. But most of the musicians leave here to get well known, and traditionally at least. And because of these towns, which were very strict schools, 19, 10, 20, 30, 40, very strict. When they got out of high school, they could play horns. They could read jazz charts. So I have a museum down there because this is a great story to me. And so a lot of 50 people left Oklahoma that were very accomplished and played with all the who's who of the jazz people in New York from here. And then the guys that played blues went out Route 66 and 10, just like DC, and all up and down the West Coast. And
Tell them who DC is, Miss Selby.
what? Am I
Tell them
jumping
who
ahead?
DC is.
My husband is DC Minner, and he was born there in his grandmother's corn whiskey house and grocery store. And then he went in the service, and when he came out, he started to play bass in Oklahoma City. And he worked with Larry Johnson and the New Breed out of Oklahoma City. And they toured for 12 years together, the New Breed. And during that time, they would go on the road with Freddie King for 2 weeks and come back, or on the road with Chuck Berry and come back. And all of the different people that came through Oklahoma City, if they needed a pickup band, well, the New Breed was the group they wanted, because they had a horn section that was in competition with the rhythm section, and the guys dressed, one of the horn players was named Mad Lad, looked like a hippie. And, I met them all. And one of them ended up being Tank Jernigan, the horn arranger at Capitol Records in Hollywood, the round building there, and did all the horn arrangements on Ray Charles's music. And what I'm saying is the level of accomplishment because of these strict schools, because of these towns, because of this commitment to make a better future for our grandchildren, okay? In 1890, black people owned 1.5 million acres of land in Oklahoma. And at Langston, they put out a newspaper and they said, don't come broke and don't come lazy. We're gonna do something here. And there were close to 200 settlements, and the schools were one of the most important parts. So when these guys got out and they could play horns, well, the root of the West Coast blues is a lot. Texas and Oklahoma. It's one, Texas and Oklahoma. You know, Donald Roby and Peacock Records, he had 100 artists, and they would go up from Texas up to Kansas and back, and then eventually out to the West Coast. And the biggest star in the West Coast blues, just to give you an example, that had the longest run of hits, is Lowell Fulson. And Lowell Fulson was born right outside of Tulsa.
Wow. We're going to circle back to talk about the forum.
Yeah.
Mr. Taylor,
Right.
how did you meet the blues, sir?
Actually having the blues.
Now, if you want black conversation, you about to get it. Go ahead, sir.
My mom and dad had split up. They had separated. And we loaded up the car in Kansas City, Missouri, and moved to Oklahoma City. I only thought it was Indians in Oklahoma. And that's how, that's how we came up thinking, So we come to Oklahoma City, and I'm pretty upset. I'm just in bad way. So come to find out, my stepfather was a musician, and he had a guitar in his closet. Now we staying with him in this efficiency apartment as we were trying to get, moved into Oklahoma, settled in Oklahoma City. And I got a hold to his guitar, and of course, he wasn't happy about that. But then he saw that I was interested in music, but I always had been interested in music. So that helped introduce me to the actual instrument itself. So drums became part of my make. I wanted to play piano, but there's a lot of things that I couldn't afford. So eventually, I started playing drums, and my stepmother in Kansas City bought the drum set. Now put that together. I don't know if she did that to make, I don't know how that worked out, but anyway, I used that to my advantage. And my stepfather, he had several bands that he played with, and a lot of these groups that we'll talk about eventually, but he was like, I guess, first call bass player in the community. And during that time, he had, like you said, clubs all over the place that you could play on. I call them weekend warriors because they would dress up and put the eye makeup on and stuff, and ready to go like they were going to Hollywood. And it was great to see that, because first of the month, everybody knew what time it was. There was money in the neighborhood, and it was, let's go.
That's right.
Let's go work this off and have a good time. So long story short, I eventually got recruited by him and a guitar player to play drums at the age of 12, and I went into the club at 13 with them. So I've been playing in clubs since I was 13 years old. We would take a break and not have to go outside. And the lady would come out and sit with me and stuff. I didn't mind that either, but but that was the deal. So eventually I played through that whole process. I always played with grown men and grown women. And eventually that became part of me. But then I started to grow into, that time funk and R&B was evolving. And that funk was just too cold. So I just, I eventually left the blues for that because I became part of the funk movement and some groups here in the area. So yeah, blues, I left blues actually during that time. So I'm gonna say 70, 71, 72, I migrated into funk, funk, and then next thing you know, there was other things coming in. I wanted to be a part of that. And being a drummer, we were trying to learn how to do everything. Billy Cobham was coming in to play the jazz. You had just all kinds, Santana, Chicago, those bands like that, big bands. I love big bands. I love horns. So that's where I went with that. And eventually, what brought me back to blues, it might have been 2010. James Walker Sr., they called him Sir James Walker. Sir James Walker Sr. was one of the musicians that I worked with when I was a child. I saw him and I said, look, I'd like to do something. I'd like for us to get together and try to upstart the community again, because it had left. There was no blues in our community. It was like, we had casinos came in, horse racing came in, and all those places dried up. So next thing you know, those musicians, I mean, outstanding musicians, just like Sylvie said, they could back up anybody that came to town. Ike Tina Turner was always in Oklahoma City and in those areas. They called on us, you know, it's like, well, we know we can go get some players. So anyway, when the casinos and other, what I call distractions came in, those musicians left. And they end up being in the casinos, not performing, but playing. So I formed a band with James Walker Sr., Sir James Walker Sr., Larry Banks on saxophone. Let's see, I had, oh man, names, but anyway, the name of the band was Blue Funk, F-O-N-K. They were having blues competitions always every year in Oklahoma City. And I always asked, I said, why come y'all don't get in the competition? The guy said, well, man, we'll never win. It's always rigged. So I said, okay, let me check on that then. So I put it together.
Sound like the Blues Foundation. Sorry, go ahead.
You know, and that's what it was.
I knew it. Sorry.
But I mean, just the fact that they were having it, you know, and then you ignore it though. But it's the truth though. It gets ignored because there's people who can actually make it happen. So we had one rehearsal with this band, and everybody saw the performance and just blown away. Okay, we ended up going to Memphis for the International Blues Competition for one rehearsal.
So I just want the audience to understand this is a feat that you really should clap for, because multiple black musicians and white musicians complained to me about those competitions being fixed. So this is not even slander, right? Because the new guard, if you will, is trying to fix that's there, okay? I always have to give a disclaimer. Go ahead, sir.
No, but it is what it is, but I felt like, let's go play the blues. If this is what it is, let's go play it, it'll speak for itself.
That's right.
And it did. And we went down to Memphis and we played through 2 rounds. And you have to understand it. When you're working with musicians that have the club mentality, because I've been blessed to play with some great musicians, and, I mean, just that set you on a concert level. Your mind is right there. You're not thinking about the bucket. You're seeing a great audience like this, but you see a sea of it. But then when you go back to that bucket mentality, it changes your whole performance.
Could you, for the sake of the audience, explain what the bucket mentality is?
I'll just put it this way. It's like you're just going to play, you know, have a good time. You don't really care. You don't really care about it, but you do. It's something to do. Just something to do. And I never have done any of this to be just something to do. I mean, from day one, playing with those grown men and women, they plugged me into this energy. And right now today, I mean, I still, whatever I'm doing, it's like, can you slow him down some? No, but tomorrow's not promised. And that's why I had to start that blues movement, and it's called the Blue Funk Blues Movement. You can, I've got a hashtag on it. You can find some of the things that we've done. And we've actually lost one of our singers last week. He got killed in a car wreck. Terrible thing. You know, we're supposed to play with him tomorrow night in Oklahoma City. Oh, man. But he sounded just like Bobby Blue Bland. It was crazy. And like I said, you'll see some of the stuff. If you look up a hashtag Blue Funk or Blue Funk Movement, it's F-O-N-K, you'll see some of the things that I have up there. But to get back to round this off, that was important to me because the community, and want to let you know, I put what I call the Big Blues Show together. What that did, the very first Big Blues Show, brought both communities together because the people that I had included on that show were worthy of balancing out the communities. And at the end of the night, people were shaking hands and hugging and said, let's do this again. And I mean, it was, you know, it was about what it's supposed to be in the first place.
Right.
The only thing that was black and white is what was on the paper if you was reading the notes. So yeah, I could go on, but I'm just saying that's where blues brought me back into the community.
That's right. That's what I'm talking about.
You know, it is now.
Were you all able to hear him?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, cool. Miss Wanda, because you have an interesting story in how you got into the blues. Please, if you don't mind, please share it with us. You can have that, but make sure you're talking to it.
I'll try to talk loud, but actually, when I first moved in my neighborhood, I guess it was like in early 60s, there was no black people at all. We was one of the first black families in that neighborhood, and I never seen anybody other than our family. So my mom and my dad, my dad is a preacher, and I started to bring him tonight because he could really tell you some history. And but anyway, my father was a preacher. My mother had a piano in the front room, and everybody in that house had to learn how to play the piano, play a guitar. You had to either sing, you had to do something in music, because she would train herself. And the amazing thing about her, after teaching everybody in the house, I was the only kid that didn't really want to do none of it. I wound up the only one singing at the whole, over the years. My brother now, he was a bass player. My mama took him and a lot of young boys that was raised, finally our neighborhood started changing over the time. And by the time we were old enough to get out there, a lot of young boys would come over to our house because they liked it, the idea that we played music. My brother went and brought a bass. He would play in the backyard every day, and my mama thought, let me call them in the house. She calls him, and I could name a lot of guys, Michael Jones, a couple of them are gone now, and if I can remember, John Ford was little, he lived on 15th, and he would come around and kind of just look at what my brother and them was doing. She said, y'all come in this house. She put them on the piano, and she started teaching them chords. She said, y'all can't play this stuff if you don't know your chords. And once they learned that, they were playing everywhere. And I got, why come they make me come out and sing the songs for them in practice, but my brother would not allow me to be in his band. He didn't want it. He said, no, because I don't think you come out here and sing these songs for us. And all his friends go, let us sing, man, let us sing. No, I don't want my sister in no band. I don't want my sister. But he go play every week. So one day my mom said, well, baby, he's got a personal reason or whatever. Maybe you should just run an ad in the paper and get your own band. Whoa. I threw that ad in the paper, and the band turned out to be, but I actually wanted to be the first punk rock singer. And back then it was Pat Benatar and all these people like that. So me and these three white guys and myself, we were going to these little clubs, like they had a club called The Dungeon in Oklahoma City. I don't know if y'all remember that, but they were throwing cans, and my guitar player would be like, I'm an actor, so I gotta show you. But anyway, he'd be like, rah, and I'd be jumping up and down, and I had this green hair, and I was all punked out. So I picked up this guitar, and I was trying to learn how to play folk too, because I liked so much music. It just was always around me from day one. And my mom was so mad at me because I wouldn't learn the piano, but they'll make me do the singing in the church. I had to be the lead singer at the church, all this kind of stuff. But I kept saying, I want a guitar. So I finally got old enough to get acoustic. I'm sitting in my house, and here comes a guy named Mississippi Pete, and everybody up here probably at least know a little bit about it. But he had a blues band. And my girlfriend kept saying, well, she can really play this guitar. I was like, no, I can't. I don't play it like that. So he's like, let me hear you play that guitar. I pulls the guitar out. And I'm singing these hickey-dick songs and the stuff I wrote, and I just love it all right. He go, well, I like that. He said, but your voice, he said, you need to be singing the blues. I go, well, I'm game for it. I love the blues, you know, because we heard that in the house too. As a child, we had singers in the house all the time. We were little and we would sit up under the table. Miss Blues, the lady I was talking about, her and her husband would come and get lessons from my mom, like how should they play this certain song or whatever, and they would just play music, tamarines. We would have a church, we had the blues in the house, we had any kind of music you could think of, and we like really all trying to listen to it. And I kept thinking, well, that lady used to sing the blues, I need to be doing that. So when I got lucky, I wound up singing with Mississippi Pete's band. But he had burned a lot of bridges all over town. I'm not going to talk about it because he's my best friend and I love him to death. And he's gone, you know. But he did start me in this business because he was like, okay, what you do is you go in that club down there on the highway, you get us booked, and then I'm going to come in there. I said, well, what's going on? He said, I don't know if they want me in there. And every time the people would fall in love with me and they would book me. And then when he come through the door, they go, oh my God. And I say, well, what's wrong? And they say, you play with him? I say, yes, I sure do. They say, how can you do it? I say, he could sing and he can, you know, he's a good entertainer. And the man really was. And they said, okay, well, we can go for that. But keep him in line. I said, I'll do my best. And after that, I played with him for several years. And since I was doing all the managing and everything was on me all the time, I was like, we need to, and he gave me 3 songs. I mean, you get tired of singing those same 3 songs everywhere you go. And I'm like, man, I got a list this long. And let me throw in this act for you. And I wound up putting in a Tina Turner act, had dancers, and we do the real Tina Turner, and we sing the blues and all of it. And we still do it today, except now I do it pretty much by myself. And one of the guys that just joined me, that's Mr. Andre Tilley. I have a great band, and the guys that play with me, well, after Pete left, what people were saying, you know, he was kind of hard to work with. So I didn't have nobody. I had 15 shows lined up, and I worked for one woman for 13 years, had 7 clubs. I moved my bands out of the city area, and I would work the biker clubs out on the outskirts in, not Spencer, Shawnee, Anadarko, different places like that. And I would drive Stroud, Oklahoma. I work all the outside skirts because I tried my best. We had good players on the inside, and there wasn't no sense in trying to, I don't like that undercut stuff. So I was like, let's just move our band out further, you know, and don't go in the other club and try to cut that man out and underbid and do all this stuff that goes behind this stuff. So I'm like, okay, we just move out. And we got lucky and met this lady. And as a matter of fact, she just hired me back to come and do some shows for her. She followed me all the way to Tennessee. I got lucky to finally, all these years of doing all that work, of shaking a tail feather. Some guys seen me and they were like, we're gonna have a Tina Turner festival and we're gonna go and honor Tina Turner. And I got invited to come and do the whole show. They paid our way to come to, you know, Tennessee. Man, that was big for me. I've never had to go. I always look at it as a part-time job because actually I'm really a daycare provider for children. I have a thing for children. I'm an advocate for children. And don't let me see you doing nothing wrong to no children. But because I don't care, I just lose it. And that's what I actually done for the whole 20 years. I had a daycare in the day, and at night I traveled the highways all the time doing blues because I love both of those two things. And here I am at this age, I'm retired. I lost my husband, my lovers, and everything. And that's what I probably get. But anyway, I'm going to open my daycare back. I'm going back into it, and I'm still going to do the blues. If they give me the license.
Well, that was for sure the blues. And there was something that you mentioned that we don't speak about a lot when we talk about the blues, and that's the back end, the cutting of the business, right? Which is really the blues. Johnny Shines, I believe his name was, said that his face used to be swollen all the time when he played out with Robert Johnson, because Robert Johnson get to acting up, and then they got to get to thumping. But what I would like you all to do before we get to anything else, because this name has been mentioned a lot this evening. I know Mr. Walter contacted me, was like, we got to change that image because we got to represent what real Oklahoma blues is.
It really is good.
Would you all please share with the audience the story of Miss Blue? Is that her name? Please share her story.
Can I say one more thing?
Absolutely, Miss Wonda.
I also played with Mr. James Walker, was one of our best musicians in Oklahoma City. I still play with his two little brothers. They just couldn't make it today. Didn't make it. And Mr. Walker was riding down my street after I lost that first band, and I seen him driving down the street, and I caught him. He played with me for 15 years, helping me get all those shows I had lined up. So I just wanted to say that. And now Miss Blues used to change my diapers if you let her tell it. She actually was, when I met her, was a baby, because like I said, she was in my house all the time. And her husband actually was a great musician. His brother also is a musician. But Miss Blues, she was able to perform in any venue. You know, she can go white, she can go black. Everywhere she went, people just seemed to take her in and let her, she's a great performer. And I used to sit there and just laugh and love those songs she write. And I looked up to Miss Blues a lot. And I wound up being like one of her children. And she took me under her wings and helped me a whole lot. So yeah, I have nothing but just great things to say about her, you know. She could sing, she's very entertaining. I wish I brought some pictures. Anybody bring anything? Dang. We got, you got it, yeah. We all got some, but you got it where we could have showed them really who she was. But the woman was just, she touched a lot of hearts. But don't mess with her, because she will get you. And don't be late on none of her shows. She'll call you out in front of everybody, but she do it in a way. She was sort of like our mother. You know, she could do that. She was the only person who could do that. You'd be like running to that stage. But anyway, that was my, man, she was really something. Y'all wish everybody could have met her. That's all I could say. She's really, really
Walter, Mr. Harold, Miss Selby, you all want to talk about it?
Sylvia used to hire her, tell her.
Yeah, she was on the festival every year. We called her Mama Blues, and she would do the beans and blues and barbecue bash for her birthday, and all the performers that I was paying would come and play at her party for free in Oklahoma City. Okay. And she was, her thing was called Blues with an Attitude, and she did open for B.B. King, and she actually was an interesting person. She told me one day, she said, well, Selby, I was very beloved, and then when I was 8 years old, my mama died. And then it was over, you know. I was from one cousin to the next. And when she was 14, she was cleaning houses and she went down to the bus station in Paris, Texas, and bought the longest ticket she could get. And it came to Oklahoma City. So she got herself to Oklahoma City, and then she told me that when she was about 20, she was working for some people, some white people cooking. She was a good cook. And she lived upstairs in the garage, and she realized that if she could get an education, she'd be all right. So she was smart. She went back to school, and she talked real country, didn't she? Now, honey. But don't let her fool you. She had a master's degree. She went back to the East Coast and wrote all the grants for, what's that work program, you know?
She was a nurse, I know that.
Yep, she was a nurse. One job she had, this guy would buy a nursing home that was getting ready to get closed up. And because it was substandard, and 2 years later, she would have restaffed the whole nursing home, 200 people, and they would be back in business, and then he'd sell it. And so she was very smart and resourceful. She had a house over on 20th Street, and she gave it to the History Center, and she had her own little Hall of Fame in there. And she wrote songs. This band fell in love with her. These guys that won a contest up there at the Blind Dog Smoking Saloon way in Wyoming or somewhere.
Okay.
There was 3 bands, and the ones that were the leaders of those 3 bands became a new band after the contest, Blind Dog Smoking. They bought, what's his name's bus, the one you called?
Ranger?
No,
The bus?
they bought the bus from, the one who worked so hard, booked himself. He does the show with the panties.
Oh, Bobby Rush.
Bobby Rush. Okay, these guys, these 3 white guys that had a blues show. Well, they bought Bobby Rush's old bus and they fixed it up and they toured 1,000,000 miles in that bus. Well, they would go all up through Colorado and everything, and they'd take Dorothy with them. Her name was Dorothy Ellis. And they'd take Dorothy with them, and after a while, they knew she needed a CD. They got her in the studio, and they never charged her a dime, and she'd just buy the CDs from them for like $4 or $5, and she could sell them for $15. And that was Blind Dog Smoking, those 3 guys, and just very beloved.
Her husband was very talented too.
TV repair.
Oh, he helped her a lot with the music.
Yeah.
When she was young, when she got here, because he's the one that had a band too, and he could play the piano. And his favorite song was, I'll never forget it, when he played at our house, was Fannie Mae. We'd be in there, Fannie Mae, you know.
There you go. That was some fun. But we would take our TV from Renniesville 2 hours over to Johnny B was his name, to get it fixed, because Johnny B would do it.
Yeah, he's a great TV man.
Yeah, great TV man.
I had an opportunity to, for the Oklahoma Historical Society, they brought me in for the history. I say a history of the blues because it depends upon who's doing the study or the research will depend upon which artists that they talk about. So I was supposed to give the intro of a history of the blues, and Miss Ellis, Miss Blues, was supposed to follow up on it. And when I got into the history of the blues and juke joints and how these blues men would come and play at these juke joints they had a quarter, little glass like that, they called it a quarter shot, and it was moonshine. And when I started saying that, she started laughing, you know, and I knew she knew exactly what I was talking about. And I'm kind of like Walter. I was playing in a band when I was 14 and 15 in these juke joints, and they said that if we get raided, we want you to walk out the back door, take your guitar, and hide in the hedges. And so, you know, my experience with Miss Blues was, and she was open, she was kind and gentle, but as she said, you didn't mess with her. She would tell you exactly, but when you have to take a look at her childhood and how she came to Oklahoma and what she had to do on her own to make it in life, you could see why she took the stand that she did about life.
I'll just say, Miss Blues, I met her. Matter of fact, we spent more time together the last few years of her life, because I didn't know that she even existed at the time. You know, 'cause what I was doing in the other areas of music. So they were doing an article on me because of this blues movement. And so while they were talking about me, I said, "Do you know Miss Blues?" I said, "No, who was that?" I said, "You gotta be kidding me." You know? So anyway, they finished the article on me. I said, "Talk to her, you know, I'll get some information for you." But long story short, she joined my movement to try to do what we saw that was right in front of us. There was no music in the community. So we'd have these shows. So everywhere I went, she was with me. Where you going, Walter? Let's go. And if she could do it, she was there. And I was with her the night that she passed away. We had just got through playing the Arcadia Blues Festival in Arcadia, Oklahoma. So I told her I was going to come back and see her. And when I came back, she was gone, but she was still there. She was there, you know. So peacefully, I was able to tell her goodbye and prayed for her. But we spent, in that short amount of time, with this movement, more time than, I'm glad I had that time and those people that we were able to educate during that process. So like I said, if you go to that hashtag Blue Funk movement, you'll see a few pictures of her. And I'm going to keep adding to that. So you find out about some more, just like James Walker Sr. that they were talking about earlier. He was the man that went with me to Memphis. See, that was our king and queen, as far as I knew. I mean, during our time, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Those were the ones we looked up to, and they showed us what to do. And that's what we've carried on with so far, and try to stay true to it.
See, you don't, give me 1 second. That's the purpose of what we're doing here, because possibly no one here knows who those people are, right? But you see the legacy, and now you're getting to meet where they got it from, and how this comes together, as we say, full circle, because most of the time, when the conversation is about the blues, it's usually about a lick, a chord, or 1-4-5, or this irrelevant stuff. You know, the majority of these people that's talking about, they aren't even musicians, so they don't even know what the hell they're talking about. But it is the people, their experience, a culture, a tradition, a conversation, a vernacular, a dish. Somebody asked me, what's your favorite restaurant? I said, Mama House. That's the blues. See what I'm saying? And this is why we have to do this. Go ahead, Miss Wonda. I just had to throw that out there so y'all can get an understanding.
I had to, I just went into that thought because my dad's a preacher, right? But in every family, you got two sides of a family.
Uh-oh. We talk about the blues now. Go ahead.
This is the blues. But over the years, we would go to like these houses that were supposed to be like our uncles or Aunt May's or whatever, and it'd be way in the country.
Come on.
And it'd be like, you had to walk, your foot might go in the floor. But they had jukeboxes and somebody out there playing the blues. Man, I love that stuff. And I don't care, they could call it bucket life, whatever. But if once you know the people, you know that situation, you know whether that's the bucket you want to fit in or not. You know? And most of them are really good people. They just don't have no money. So we make the bucket work, you know? And for years, I done it too. I didn't know. I have a stage in my yard, you know.
Miss Wonda, the bucket life, is that the same bucket that Mr. Walter was talking about?
Well, maybe not quite like what he's saying.
Could you explain what bucket you're talking about, please?
Buckets are like houses that people had back in the old days, where it was like a club, a social gathering, and the whole people in the neighborhood would either hang there, the ones that want to drink, party, dance, have a good time, you know. And when I was growing up, they had corn whiskey, and I reached and grabbed one, and my daddy liked to have a fit because he knew my mama was gonna kill him when I got home. And I took that drink, you know. And thank God I don't drink now. when I was a kid, I didn't know what it was. I thought it was water, and I picked it up and drank it. He's like, oh, Lord. He said, she done drunk some of that stuff, and it was so powerful. I mean, it burns, and that's what buckets are. They have a jukebox that play all the records, blues, R&B, whatever's popular for that time. But, yeah, a hole in the wall.
We called it a liquor house.
Liquor house, bootlegger. Good kind of house.
Well, if I may, the good time is because, in theory, I don't know. Whatever you're looking for, you can find in this house. I'll just put it that way.
Oh, boy.
That's
what I want.
No, it's okay. So I want to get a couple of questions before they get to performing, but I want, if possible, Ms. Selby, could we talk about that location that you kind of touched on earlier, the farm and what goes
In
on
Renniesville?
there? Yes, and
Yeah.
how all these wonderful people sitting up here is connected through this space?
Yeah, we are a community, and that's what I love about it. It's a community, and most of the people that love this music, I love them all, really. I've been playing this music my whole adult life, and how many people can say that when they go to work, they love their job, and not only that, most of the people they met doing their job, they like them.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of unusual.
Yeah.
And so, that's the truth. And so, my husband, DC was a forward thinker. He was an Aquarian, and he, after 12 years on the road, traveling around, playing music and coming back, rent the place out, it'd be a wreck, kick the people out because they owed us $1,000 and the rent was $80 a month. We'd been gone for a year and a half, and so finally one day he said, maybe if we tear the walls out of the house, I don't want this house to go down from renters. This is my grandma's house. If it's going to go down, it should at least go down with music in it. I said, okay, that makes sense to me. And so he said, maybe if we tear the walls out of the house, build a stage and a bar and a couple of bathrooms, we won't have to drive all the time. Because we lived on the road 12 years, mostly in a van, to tell you the honest truth, and loved it. Traveled all over, up and down the West Coast, Arizona, New Mexico, up to Rhode Island, had a couple gigs in Chicago, etc. So we had a party to test it, because the dirt road that we live on was the first trail from Kansas City to Houston across Indian Territory. So that dirt road has a lot of history. 1 million cattle went up it before the Chisholm Trail. The buffalo carved that trail out. It later turned into 69, which is a major trade route, which is like a half a mile from the house. Old 69 is 1.5 miles from the house. And the railroad track runs on the same. So there was a Civil War battle that happened there. That was a big turning point for the entire, there's a whole museum down there, Honey Springs. That was pivotal battle. First time they let black soldiers have the guns, And they were very well trained, and they were outnumbered 2-1, and they routed the South. And it was sort of a turning point for the Civil War. After that, the president invited people of color to fight for their own freedom. And how many people do you think signed up to fight for their own freedom? All of them. That's the best one I heard yet. 180,000 people. 40,000 of them died at the end. The President Lincoln was sending the white guys home saying, hey, these guys are doing a good job winning their own freedom. Let them do it. Well, they don't teach that in the school. They don't teach the history of these black towns in the school either. And it's a proud history, But what was I trying to get to? Okay, so DC and I moved home. And we had friends all over the Southwest, and we'd been playing out there for 12 years. Bay Area, Redwoods, and it's a lot of fun, good people. So we had our party when they did the first reenactment for Honey Springs. They reenact that battle every other year. Okay, and people came, and we sold barbecue, and so that was our test run. So then after that, we remodeled the house again and took all the walls out. It took 30 days. It was just a mess. And fixed up this real nice looking little place in there. And started the blues club. And we didn't know it was after hours. His grandmother always ran after hours, but one night somebody said they're going to bring us a bunch of people, and they showed up at 1:30 in the morning.
Sorry.
I'm telling you, like 40 people. We said, well, maybe it's still after hours. So then we used to play from 9 to 5, 8 hours. That's 2 gigs. Then finally from 10 to 4, and we'd run till 5 in the morning. And after about 3 or 4 years, this is 88, 89, 90, 91, DC said, well, we know people all over the country, and some of them are really good. They need to meet each other. They all love this music. If we give them an excuse, they might show up on the same day. And then he would say, there's that festival up there in Tulsa, that Juneteenth thing, they won't even hire an Oklahoma band. There are a lot of Oklahoma bands that are really good. All the money's going to out-of-state groups. If we start a festival and put the people we know, being musicians, on this festival, maybe they'll get hired up there at the Juneteenth on Greenwood. So we tore the walls out of the house and fixed it up really nice. And about 5 years later, we decided to try the festival. That was in 91. So we had just made the place twice as big. Okay, he did it himself. DC built half that building. So it's 75 feet by 75 feet. It's so big, I didn't know if we'd ever fill it up. But I kept my mouth shut, I know how to stay married 32 years. Okay. So I kept my mouth shut, and he was working so hard, putting down the floor and everything. And because we played Juneteenth on Greenwood, we met Little Johnny Taylor, and we met Nappy Brown, and we met Johnny Rawls. He said, okay, we got a headliner for each of the first 3 years. Let's see what happens. I said, okay. So we were out of money. So we told the bands, if you come help us the first year and this works, then we'll always pay you after this, but we need you to help us because we spent the money on the building. We're going to give Little Johnny Taylor, Part-Time Love. I got to find me a part-time love, that guy. Big hits, okay, which in the blues is not a lot of records, but he was on top. And so we'll give him $1,000. And people in Renniesville were saying, Little Johnny Taylor can't find Renniesville. And we said, maybe for $1,000 he can find Renniesville. And so he made the place bigger. He finished it 2 weeks before the first festival, 75 feet by 75 feet. And it was a Sunday afternoon. We had 7 bands on there and Little Johnny Taylor, and we had 750 people at $7.50 a pop. Right. Thank you. So he was right. So now after that, he got really busy. He tore, built a fence around the place, a stage down in the corner, turned in the farm pond. I mean, he worked so hard. And so the next year we had outdoor and indoors, Saturday and Sunday. We had 2 stages, and it grew. Now we have 3. We're on year number 32. And we, through the help of the State Arts Council and our loyal friends and fans that come and help us, we employ 200 musicians every year. That's why these people all know each other so well. They've all shared the stage. So it's Renniesville, dusk till dawn. It's Labor Day weekend, the end of the summer, and it's dusk till dawn.
Yes. So I have something for you, for. Thank you so much.
I can talk for days.
Okay, first, so I want y'all to tell me if I'm right or wrong. Miss Wonda is a performer, ain't she? You get that, right? So this is a Jack Dappa Blues Heritage Preservation Foundation plaque award honoring Miss Wonda F. Macon in recognition for your preservation of blues performance.
Oh, thank you.
Hold on. You got to know what the performance means, right? Performance on and off stage, traditional and contemporary performances of blues music, blues song, blues dance, blues theater, and Black American culture reflecting the American experience.
Oh, thank you.
I was not expecting this.
I know you wasn't. Another Jack Dappa Blue. Okay. Shameless plug, I'm sorry. Honoring, it doesn't say doctor here, but I like to call him Doctor, Harold C. Aldridge Jr., infotainer And he's going to explain what that is in a minute. In recognition for your preservation of blues narrative. What does that mean? The reflection of culture for blues people. It's an amalgamation of the traditions common to their practice of narrating the experience, heritage, geographical location, and vernacular through story. Sir. Now, you may have heard it a little bit, but we really didn't get down to it. And if we don't get to it tonight, we're going to do it. We're going to scale this up and get the story from him, because what he hasn't told you is he's done ethnographic interviews with a lot of these black blues musicians who's passed on. So this is honoring Mr. Walter Taylor III in recognition for your documenting of blues oral history, the recording and communication of knowledge, art, ideas, and cultural material preserved and transmitted orally from one generation to another through speech or song. Last but not least, little lady, honoring Miss Selby Minner in recognition for your preservation of blues legacy, cultural and traditional expression transmitted by or received from an ancestor for continuation.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, what I'm going to ask is.
Beautiful.
Oh, give me a second.
Spelled it right.
You need a chair, you need a different chair. You need a different chair to play?
Yeah, shorter chair.
Okay, so we're going to start some performances. We're going to start with Dr. Harold Aldridge, and he's going to explain to you why they call it infotainer, and go through his blues history performance. And then we're going to get the performance of Miss Wonda, Mr. Walter, Miss Selby. That's good?
It works.
Great.
Okay.
Great.
You can explain the infotainer while he's getting the chair for you.
When I first heard the word infotainer, I thought somebody was just making up something. Then I went and looked it up, and it's like, yeah, that's close. And when I looked it up, I saw where it is entertaining, but you're also providing information. And so,
Thank you.
so what I tried to do,
I'll walk it with you,
okay.
and I'll bring your guitar over. You okay?
Yeah.
Is that too small, too short?
Maybe, I'll see.
I had a stool.
No, this will work.
Sure.
Yeah. I'm back at home now.
Let's see, can we, there we go, there we go.
Yeah.
Is that good for you?
That's good. That'll work. Can you hear me all right? Yeah. All right. What I try to do in the infotainment aspect is to talk about the history of the blues, how it came to be. And when you think about it, you have to take a look at it came from field hollows, work songs, chants. And then there was a Native American influence in there, especially with the Creek and the Choctaw down out of Mississippi. So when you consider the work songs and all, you would have to think about these young soul brothers. They'd have to catch the muse every morning. And what they did is they'd have a lot, a paddock area that they put the mules, and usually put a wagon in the center of the paddock area and throw ears of corn in there. And the mules would eat corn all night and roll and eat corn all night. And then when you went out to catch them the next morning, you would have to, they didn't want to be caught because they knew they were going to be in the fields all day long. And so sometimes they would throw a rope on them. And usually when you catch an animal like that every day, as soon as the rope gets on them, they'll quit. You don't even have to have it around their necks. And so a lot of times when they worked these mules on the plantations, they didn't put the right size horse collar pad on, and then they put the horse collar on there, and sometimes it would wear a sore on the mule's shoulder. And then when the mule got a sore shoulder, he wouldn't pull even. He would pull with the good shoulder, so that meant he'd lunge with you. And then when you were plowing a mule, you'd have the lines from the reins, from the bit. It was one line, and it went round. If you were left-handed, you have the line come over this shoulder and under this arm. And a lot of times you didn't have to even handle the lines when you messed with the mules enough. You just told them what you wanted them to do. Whoop, whoa. And he'd stop, and you'd tell him either G or ha. G means turn to the right. And then when he has these traces on him coming from the hanes, which is connected to the horse collar, it would wear a sore on their hips. So they learned how to turn sideways. They didn't just bend their body. If you were riding one, they'd bend their body and turn. They would turn. So you'd tell him, G, G, whoa, step up. And that's where they went all day long. And so these young brothers would holler over across the plantation. You know, they'd holler one day. There would be paddocks. The very large plantations would have paddocks on different parts of the plantation. And they would holler something like, hey, you know, I plowed old Jesse, yes I did, well, well. And I plowed old Bill. Can't find one mule with a shoulder well, 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 with a shoulder well, yeah. And his other brother on the other side of the plantation, he's hollering back, hey, he said, if I feel like this in the morning, yeah, I believe I'll make my getaway, yeah. Believe I'll make my getaway. And they went on like that with the field hollers. And then one of the songs that added to it was called a chant. And Son House made a chant kind of, he brought it to the face. Don't you mind people grinning in your face? Well, well. Don't you mind people grinning in your face? In your face. They'll grin in your face. They'll party with you all around town. Soon as your back is turned, they'll stab you to the ground. Bear this in mind, a true friend is hard to find. Don't you mind people grinning in your face, in your face. Don't you mind people grinning in your face. Your lover may say we're through, leave you sad and blue. One heart finds another, a mind-blowing lover, huh? Bear this in mind, a true friend is hard to find. Don't you mind people grinning
in your face. Don't you mind people grinning in your face? Now here's a surprise for you. Your mama may talk about you, also your brother, daddy, sisters too. Don't matter how you try to live, they'll talk about you still. Bear this in mind, a true friend is hard to find. Don't you mind people grinning in your face, in your face. Don't you mind people grinning? Oh yeah, they'll come around skinning and a grinning, patting you on the back. You my main man, you my sister girl. I'll be with you through anything that ever happens in the whole wide world. I'll be with you through thick and thin. And when you look up and you're knee deep in stuff and you look around for your family and your friends and they got a little thin. Don't you mind people grinning in your face? Now see those chants, the field hollows, the work songs. My grandfather came to Oklahoma in the early 1900s off of a plantation outside of Alexandria. His daddy was a plantation owner, and so he looked like a white man. And somehow or another, I never could understand because I didn't know enough to ask him. He joined the AME Church, the African Methodist Episcopal Church, which was an abolitionist church that started in the late 1700s. And so he worked on the Midland Valley Railroad that ran from Muskogee through Taft, Oklahoma, and through here in Tulsa and down in Midland, Texas. And they had work songs handling the railroad iron and the cross ties. Now the cross ties are about 8 inches by 10 inches by 8 feet long, and they carried those things by themselves. And then they had what they call rail dogs, which is what they used to pick up a railroad iron. And it depends upon, where they were. Was it in a town or was it on the railroad line? And they would pick that up, and there were 6 men on a crew, and they had to do it in time. When they latched the rail dogs to it, they would have to get their feet together, and then they would have one guy who was the barker, and he usually had the best voice for it. And they would say, all right, just a little bit, ha! And that's when you'd pick it up. Just a little bit, and you'd walk like this. Just a hair, just a little bit, right there. Just a little bit, all right, lay it down right there. And then they had what they call railroad iron, where it was a bar about 6 feet long, about 1.5 inches thick, and you put that down beside the railroad iron to move it over just a tad until you could get it lined out. And there's one guy looking to make sure it's where it's supposed to be so the trains can travel over it. And then they would go, all right, ha! And then it would be just a little bit, just a hair, just a little bit right there. And they'd get it until it was there, and they'd say, all right, move on down the line, and this guy would start driving the spikes in it. So he did that from 1925 to 1945. And when he retired from the railroad, they gave him a gold watch. And so that kind of stuff, the field hollows, the work songs, the chants, were the foundation of the blues. And then you had the Native American influence when you deal with off in Mississippi and through in there with the Choctaws and the Creeks. And then they would have songs like, hey, I know, away, hey, I know, away, hey, I know, hey, oh, You add all of that together, and then you get deep delta sound. Can you hear it?
Go ahead.
You know I'm a crawling king snake, and I rule my den. Deep delta. Now it moved from the deep delta. This was Blind Lemon Jefferson song, East Texas, and it made its way through Oklahoma. There's one kind favor I'll ask of you. One kind favor I'll ask of you. One kind favor I'll ask of you. Please see that my grave is kept clean, boy, is kept clean. There's a long cold lane and it ain't no end. Long cold lane and it ain't no end. Long cold lane and it ain't no end. Those people there are not your friends, boy, not your friends. Have you ever heard that church bell toll? You ever heard that church bell toll? Have you ever heard that church bell toll? Then you know that the Lord has freed my soul, boys, has freed my soul.
I'd do anything to play like that, Mr. Eldridge. I've been working on a guitar forever. Seeing how I don't have my band tonight, and Sylvie really didn't bring her lead in here tonight, because she could play everything. I'm just going to say something. I just want to give you just a little bit of what I do. One of my favorite blues songs, and I've probably been singing it forever now. That, y'all ain't got to walk, Mike, because I'm used to walking. Anyway. There's something on your mind. I can tell by the way you're looking at me. There's something on your mind, sweet baby. Yeah, yeah. I can tell by the way you're looking at me. How you used to love me, sweet baby, yeah. But now you wanna set me free. Oh, please don't try to tell me no. Okay. That's it. Baby, please don't try to tell me no. I do believe I understand. Oh, they gonna throw out now. Baby, please don't try to tell me. Now I know I understand. But I want you to know, sweet baby, yeah, that you'll always be my man. Somebody let me cry and moan for a minute. I need to know if you think about me, if I ever cross your mind. Woo! Think about me sometime. Yeah. All right. I want you to think about me. Woo! If I ever cross your mind, I need you to think about me sometime. Think about me. How about think about me? 'Cause I want you to know, sweet baby, that I think about you all the time. Thank y'all.
I'm not singing all this.
I'm gonna do just a little bit of this. Can you hear me?
Y'all can hear him? Yes, sir. Thank you, young bro.
Wednesday is worse. Oh, Thursday is oh so sad. So the eagle flies on Friday. Saturday I go out to play. I said the eagle flies on Friday. Saturday I go out to play. But you know on Sunday morning, down on my knees I've got to pray. Can I play on guitar for you? Wow, 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 wow.
Wow, 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 wow. Wow, 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 wow. Wow, 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 wow. Bam, bam, boom, 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 boom. Wow, 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 wow. Stormy Monday. Feel like clapping your hands, come on with me. Tuesday just as bad. Said it calling Stormy Monday. Tuesday just as bad. Yesterday. Wednesday worse. All Thursday is so sad. Eagle flies on Friday. Saturday I go out to play. Have a real good time, y'all. So the eagle flies on Friday. Saturday I'm gonna go out and play. So Sunday morning, I'm gonna get down on my knees and show enough parade. See, I'm still looking for my baby though. I'm still looking for my baby, but I was left it right there at church, y'all.
So, that was a few minutes. Did you have any questions for our great preacher? Give him a round of applause. You have another song? Yeah. You do? Yeah. One more song. I'm sorry. I'm up with Don't listen to me. 15?
He was also a mechanic. This is ZZ Hill tune. One thing I want to say is the Texas-Oklahoma hot box style is the style that all the rock and rollers play. It went from Blind Lemon, T-Bone, Charlie Christian, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Freddie King, single note. And B.B. King will say, oh, I'm from Mississippi, but my finger's too lazy to play that finger picking style. I'm doing Texas hotbox Oklahoma style. Single note lead. This is for people who fix things. I told him my caddy just wasn't driving right. Honey, I'm so tired of the pain coming out at night. He said I never have to worry. Said he'd fix it up, then he smiled. He gonna check that oil, carburetor, alternator. Get with it after a while. Said, baby, don't you panic. With the shade tree mechanic. Shade tree mechanic. That's all it is. Don't you panic, girl.
A shade tree mechanic.
Shade tree mechanic. Fix it up just fine. How do you know what I think? My front end Mercedes is hair out of line. Yeah.
He's a shade tree mechanic.
Shade tree.
Shade tree, shade tree.
Shade tree.
Shade tree.
Shade tree.
Shade tree mechanic, yeah.
That's right, get it right every time.
tree mechanic.
Knocking on wood, baby. Shade tree mechanic.
Shade tree mechanic. Yeah.
Told him my generator wasn't working fine. He said that's all right, and he said he'd fix it up, then he smiled.
Shade tree
Said I
mechanic.
never have to worry.
He's a shade tree
Honey, just to
mechanic.
let him up under the hood.
Shade
You're gonna check that oil
tree.
carburetor.
Shade tree
Gonna
mechanic.
lubricate it good. He said, baby, don't you panic, baby.
Shade tree mechanic.
Let's
Yeah.
sing it now.
Shade tree mechanic.
Shade tree,
Shade tree
uh-huh.
mechanic. Yeah.
Shade tree mechanic,
Shade tree
Carburetor.
mechanic.
uh-huh.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Illinois, tie rod in, uh-huh, yeah. I said I ain't had a good tune-up, baby, in a long while.
Shade tree mechanic. Oh, shade tree
Said
mechanic.
get it together.
He's a shade tree mechanic. Oh,
Said I never have to worry, just to let him up under the hood. You're gonna check that oil carburetor alternator. Gonna fix it up real good. Uh-huh.
shade tree mechanic.
Get it right every time.
Shade tree mechanic.
Oh, shade
He's a
tree.
shade tree mechanic.
Just might wanna make the man.
Shade tree
Hey,
mechanic.
got me knocking on the
Shade tree, shade tree.
shade tree mechanic.
Shade tree mechanic. He's a shade tree mechanic. Shade tree mechanic.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So, a couple of minutes left. Is there anybody who has a question for one of our most honored and respected panelists? Don't all say it at one time. Sir?
This is great, Chris. This is a very wonderful time. Here's a general question. T-Bone Walker, was he the first person to apply electric guitar? To play pick blues and put on an electric guitar? Is that true or false?
I think that's
Charlie Christian was the first one who did the single note, but it was for jazz. And from him, T-Bone, Lonnie Johnson, in the 1920s, he was one of the first ones who did it in blues.
Good answer.
Boy, that's a smart man.
Well, now I'm going to brag on my friend, professor of psychology at NSU.
Hush, hush.
He said he was the coolest thing on campus. NSU and Telecom.
Anybody else?
He doesn't like me to talk about it, but he's also a basketball referee all over the country with an afro. He's just a humble man, but you know, I'm proud of Harold.
I've lived in Oklahoma almost 20 years, and this is the first time I've ever been able to hear this music. I've heard about it, but I've never heard it in person. And it's wonderful to hear from all of you. And I'm wondering, how many of you live in Oklahoma now? And can I come visit you?
Yeah, come to the festival. It's Labor Day weekend. It's down near Shakota in Rainey'sville.
Every Sunday.
And every Sunday, right there, we also have the Blues Hall of Fame. We've put 200 people on the wall and given them trophies. We teach the babies, honor the elders, employ the people who play it the best, and we have a jam session every week. 12 years we've been doing it. Sunday at 5 to 9. It's free. Bring your axe if you play. We'll get you up. And it's right there in DC's birthplace. I mean, the building burned down and got rebuilt, but right there where DC grew up. And you can find us, the easiest way to find us is to Google Oklahoma Blues Hall of Fame. They changed the names of the streets, that says 11th Street and all that other stuff. But John Hope Franklin, DC Ministry. Oklahoma Blues Hall of Fame.
Yes.
I have a,
Jam session on Sunday. Go ahead.
okay. Right quick, tomorrow night, if you're in Oklahoma City, I'll be playing at Belle Isle Brewery with Garrett Big G Jacobson. I've been working with him for over 20 years, and I guarantee you, you'll think Lil Milton is standing on that stage, or B.B. King, or anybody that you've been influenced by. But that's tomorrow night at 8 o'clock at the Belle Isle Brewery.
Where is that exactly?
Northwest, in Oklahoma City on Northwest Expressway, right across from Penn Square. So that's all the information I can give you on that. But just the Belle Isle Brewery tomorrow in Oklahoma City, 8 o'clock.
Crack band, really, really good. They play the jazz level.
Oklahoma City, I'm going to be playing at Triples for a Halloween party. And I have a stage in my yard, so I'm going to bring you this card, young lady. And whenever we have something, just look on Facebook and see Wanda Macon. You'll see everything that I do on that page, because I post every activity, and everybody's welcome to come anywhere I'm at.
One last question and it's over. Anybody got one last question? No?
I'd just like to say one more thing. DC wrote a lot of songs, and if you go to
One
YouTube
more song?
and Google in DC Minner and Selby, Minner has 2 N's, or Renniesville, Oklahoma, you'll see the festival that we recorded. It's 18 hours of Oklahoma bands and more. And then 65 songs that DC wrote that I got mastered and made slideshows for, all on the YouTube. Just Google in DC Minner, Selby, and it'll start coming on. What you got? Oh, yeah. G.
And don't forget hashtag Blue Funk, BLUFONK.
There's so much music in Oklahoma City. Really, there is. We just lost a genius, the Mr. Guitar. He played with, Clarence Carter for years.
You sold it? Give me 1 second. Oh, y'all grown?
We got all the adults in here?
What time is it? Oh, okay, so we're going to give you some water to go home with.
Well, this has been one of my acts, and actually they call me Miss Sunset, the one and only Miss Spank Me Baby, because the older lady we're talking about, Miss Blues, she got so tickled, and actually DC Minner, which I'm always on Selby's show every year, pretty much somewhere out there, and we really appreciate her because she keeps the blues alive. And they've seen this act, so let me do it for you.
What key are you in?
I'm gonna do G.
G, good.
And I want the.
Yeah, okay, you count it.
Rock me, baby. Rock me all night long. I want you to rock me, baby. Rock me all night long. I need you to rock me, rock me real nice and slow. Rock me, baby. Yeah. Rock me all night long. Come on and roll your baby, yeah. Roll your baby all night long. I need you to roll me, baby, till I don't even want no more. Now, y'all bring it down for me a little bit. I want to talk to the people just for a second. Now, I know y'all get tired of making love the same old fashioned way. I said, I know y'all get tired of making love the same old fashioned way. All that all up and down around the town, back around the town again. But see, I want to spice up my life. wanna try something new. Oh yeah, I'm gonna try something new. I need to spice it up. Yeah. I need to spice it up, try something new. If I like it, I want all of y'all to go home and try it too. Y'all ready? Pump it up for me. Woo. Oh yeah. I need you to spank me, baby. Spank me all night long. Woo. I want you to spank your baby. Spank her till she don't want no more. But do it nice and slow though, man. Don't be hurting it. Rock me, baby. Come on and rock me. Why don't you roll me that ear like you roll your flour dough? Woo! Can you do it? I want you to roll me, baby. Down. Come on and spank me. We do have a little fun sometime and act a little crazy, but y'all come out and support us wherever you see us, because we need to keep the blues alive. Right.
Thank you. Give yourselves a hand, too.
Yes. That's all right. So, well, Miss Selby took my line, but it's okay. You know why? It's Miss Selby, and she can do that.
I'm sorry.
No, stop apologizing, women. Y'all up here getting busy. We'll stay in a moment. No, so thank you all for coming out. She has a museum inside that juke joint too. You really need to go see this place, right? And one of the things that we are encouraging you to do is, if you see us posting anything, push it, because our goal is to take this little panel that you all experienced with us, because we try to be as interactive as possible, and scale it up to make it a full-fledged ethnographic field project where the four of them and there's several more musicians. We're going to go to that farm and interview them on the spot, get the tour of the actual location. That is the goal. And if I tell you the rest of it, then I might have to kill you. But no, all jokes aside, one of the things we're doing, because we're really into, Jack Dappa Blues is into VR, XR, and all this good stuff. So we're actually working towards, in an MIT program, working towards making a virtual museum and a, what is it called? A meta, what is these places? Who said it? A metaverse juke joint, where things like this will be there, but more importantly, it won't just be, see, our organization does not want to own someone else's story. It'll be their story, it'll be stored at her location, but we will have a virtual location on my website where you can see all of this, but we don't have to repatriate, because after we do it, it's going to live with them, because the purpose of it is to bring awareness to what they're doing here in Oklahoma. And we need your help for that. So just always support when you see them or when you see any of us posting or pushing this narrative, because we want to go to the Oklahoma Blues Hall of Fame and document their stories. Because how many more, you said it was like 200 musicians, how many is alive right now? Oh my goodness, I'll be signing some of y'all up. All right. So again, thank you for coming out. I'm sorry I didn't have no liquor, no corn liquor to give you.
Quarter shots.
Listen, if y'all came to the very first one of these I did, I can't tell you. Forget it. Don't worry about it. All right. Thank y'all. With the